Let me answer that question in a moment. Always. Patience, patience. But there's no choice. So what's being suggested in this apparent gathering, Zoom meeting, or whatever this is that the conversation seemingly revolves around the notion that one need not relentlessly seek a sense of belonging or happiness, since what is already this. There seems to be a perpetual seeking of what is already. What seemingly transpires in this meeting is that notion that the ceaseless, draining quest or neurotic quest for something elusive, something out there for the future character, designated solely for the character, the dropping of the character. But what is overlooked, seemingly, is that the neurotic seeking is a paranoia, a construct of the apparent character to maintain the apparent character, since there is already no character. What seems to appear is like a neurosis, that there is something missing. But since there is nothing missing, everything is already as it is, since there's really nothing missing. And what is already, whatever it is this seeming overlooking of something that is already. So there's a desperate seeking for nothing, but nothing is seeking nothing, overlooking that it's already nothing. But the nothing seems to be defined for that character as something. That nothing seems to be held on to something that needs to happen, something that needs to happen in a future event, an apparent dropping, when it's already is. Seemingly, there's a desire to lose desire, which is still a desire, by the way. It will just keep on going and going and going and going. But there is no one behind any of this. There's simply nothing behind any of this. Turtles all the way down. It's simply what is already. Seemingly, in this apparent unfolding, not just in this space, but in everyness and everythingness and whatever seems to appear, it is already what it is. It is the meeting of something fundamental without any opposite, simply not two, a sourcelessness, recognition of the essence of this appearance in itself. This apparent recognition happens as what is interacts with what is in a billion trillion many ways. And it revels in diversity, can appear as good, bad, this, that, you, I, me, no me, or whatever seems to appear. At this very apparent moment, although it's illusory, what is takes the form of a person, a character sitting in a chair, engrossed in this meeting or not, paying attention or not to every word. It also takes the form of the ground, the walls, the camera, the computer, the heartbeat, the taste of the mouth, the colors, the scents, the sounds, the whispers, and everything else that's occurring, seemingly occurring. What is embodies everything that's transpiring, absolutely everything, and also nothing at all. So that seems to be the dilemma, is that the character that's listening to this is trying to figure out what's being said, trying to um, comprehend something that is completely incomprehensible. And that's not a way of gatekeeping, it's just simply what is. It's not a way of trying to hide something, because it is already incomprehensible. There seems to be a running around in words. There seems to be a trying to figure out this or that, what's being said or not said. But all of these words are already empty, without any meaning, without any purpose, because it is already. I've said this many times, but there's nothing that I will say here that can change what is. There's nothing that that you can do that can make this clearer than what already is, already completely what it is. It is already in everything. It is already what is. Um, this remarkable aliveness, this remarkable aliveness is not hidden. It's not a construct. It's not an idea. It's not a concept. Although it's incomprehensible because it does not need any comprehension, it's simply appearing as it is. At the same time, it's also not appearing because appearance is subjective. There seems to be a person behind it, but there's really no one behind anything, all of this. So any perspective, any idea, any comprehension seems to hide what it is. Any thinking, any figuring out seems to conceal what is already not hidden. The moment that there's a thinking, there's an idea or a processing of something that does not need to be processed, there seems to be a veiling of what can never be hidden. And it seemingly triggers this neurotic seeking that there must be something that is not seen. There must be something that is missing. There must be something that is hidden. But nothing is hidden because this is really just nothing. But not even nothing because that's just another idea or another concept the moment that someone hears it and makes it into something that is not. And that seems to be the dilemma, is that what seems to be appearing is what is and what is not. For example, and again, it just creates this confusion again, but there shouldn't be because it already is. It's just direct, it's naked, it's incomprehensible, it's raw, it's unaltered, it's unchangeable. It is what it is, no matter what it is. If one were to hide but wanted to ensure they were found, the most smartest, cleverest strategy would be to transform into everything that is. Meaning that what seems to be hidden seems to be missed is because it's already in everything. It's in every thought, it's in every feeling, it's in every sensation, it's in every taste, it's in every heartbeat, it's in every breath, it's in every pixel, it's in every neuron, it's in every atom, it's in everything. If something has to be glaringly obvious, wouldn't it make sense to make it encompass everything? Make it all encompassing? Because this is not a trick, this is not a drill, it already is. It's not and that's what's like a cosmic joke in all of this is, right, there seems to be a desperate seeking of nothing, and it just keeps on seemingly to be hidden, but nothing is hidden. Nothing is obscured. Nothing is hidden. It already is. All of this need not to be grasped intellectually. If it were that easy, one would merely be an individual who had accumulated ideas of the abstract about non-duality. Someone with the mental concepts, but this cannot be conceptualized. Although everything that is being expressed seems to be a concept, what is truly being, if we cut all the words and everything and just directly, it cannot be conceptualized. It cannot be conceptualized. It's not about trying to figure out what cannot be conceptualized again, because it can go into that scenario again. What's a non-concept? I need to figure out what cannot be conceptualized, or how can I understand the unthinkable? It appears in everything. So it also appears in the thinking, although there's no one thinking. It appears in the speaking, although there's no one speaking. It appears in the hearing, although there's no one hearing. But seemingly someone's hearing, someone's speaking, and someone is scratching their head of what's being spoken about. Again, this is not about an intellectual understanding. This is just a suggestion, but almost like an immersion into the wondrous mystery of what is. Not as a doing, but just a curiousness, an immersion into the curiousness of something that cannot be comprehended. The goose flying south to Florida, trying to escape the cold of Canada, honking along the way, the trees rustling, the wetness of the grass, the coldness of the winter coming or the fall happening in November. Again, this is not about knowing. Again, those are just words that seems to label something that cannot be labeled, because what seems to be appearing seemingly seems separate to an individual, but since there's no individual, it's whole and complete. So it cannot not even be uttered. It cannot be even be spoken about because it is what it is. To an observer, although there's no one observing, it's just this beauty or this madness that seems to appear. But it doesn't have to be one thing or the other. It's in all of it. It's in the beauty and it's in the madness. It's in the silence, it's in the sound. It's in the longing, it's in the contentment. It's in everything, but there's nothing behind it. Nothing behind it. So this apparent immersion or curiousness into this wondrous mystery of what is, it's like a plunge into the realm of not knowing, the innocence of it all, the ignorance of bliss. And in that dive, the seeker ceases to exist. It doesn't have a space for anything separate. So poof, puff, boom, desperately seeking nothing when it's already nothing. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
Hi.
Hello, who's there?
Hi.
Oh, hi,
It's
Maria.
Maria.
Hello.
Do you want to see something funny? Look,
Yeah.
I've got life size everyone.
Oh,
You're
wow.
all yeah. I was watching a movie and then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do the call with like life size Emerson
Neat.
and yeah, it's really quite trippy. So if you see me looking over there, I'm looking at you. But anyway. Um so okay, so I had this well mm, I went to this party last night.
You party a
And
lot. I'm just joking.
I know, I kind of do. Well, it
I'm
was
just
like
kidding. I'm just kidding.
no. It
We
was
were
funny.
talking the other day, and she was the same thing. He goes, "I'm going to this party tonight."
I
That's
know.
awesome.
It's
That's
true.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was interesting because like I went to the party. The same thing happens that always happens, allegedly, which
Yeah.
is like I get home, I'm wired, I can't really sleep, I'm mad at myself. And there was just this moment where it was like I would rather be okay with it being like this for the rest of my life than to fight it anymore. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like
It's never going to cease, right? Saying
it's
it's just what is. It's almost like, no matter no matter how much it's fought, it can never be won.
yeah.
But
And
go ahead, sorry.
no, so that was just like this really, and it's happened a few times now, apparently, in the story, that like it's like the rest is in the anxiety. The
Yeah.
rest is in the exhaustion.
Yeah.
It's all rest. Like the minute it stops trying to find, trying to escape,
Yeah.
it doesn't escape. There's just
No.
nothing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so I think since we talked a few times, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, there was still this, I need to, I need to, I need to like, and then today, after it's just been in and out, but kind of like, well, it's like just this kind of like dropping into,
Like
even
an
though there's no one
immersion.
dropping.
Yeah.
Yeah, like an
Yeah.
intimacy, like a
Yeah.
just, but that's it.
Yeah.
Not, that's
Beautiful.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's like, oh, after, and then it's like, well, I don't know. So it's it's quite wild. But
Yeah, there's nothing really needed, right? You know what I'm saying? There's no techniques or, that's okay. That's, it's nothing wrong or right about that. But when it's really seen that when there's really no engagement or rejection of what is, it is what it is.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then there's this like this despair comes up that's like
that's it also.
you're never gonna feel better. And I'm like, oh, it's true. I'm never gonna get there. But like I I've like exhausted the options of trying. So I don't care. You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm never gonna get there. And so I'll just like luxuriate in this, even if it's hatred or anxiety or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is what it is, right? So there's just really not a doing of trying to accept it or reject it because the seeming character will try to either embrace it, but who's embracing it is just or rejecting it. Do you know what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah.
Sometimes or reinforce it by trying to reject it over and over again, or this whatever seems to appear. So when it is, for example, a sadness comes, then there's an acceptance of sadness or there's a rejection of sadness. But if it's just sadness, if it stays, it stays. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
Yeah.
And I was talking to someone before that I've been talking to a lot of characters that have done like a one-on-one a year ago, and then coming back and basically like reporting, kind of like, hey, Emerson. So what this is a great analogy. It's like this character similar to your story that got into a lot of spiritual practices, a lot of inquiry. And again, there's nothing wrong or right about that. But what this character said, it's like she said, it was like getting a giant tattoo on my forehead, and listening to you is like the getting that tattoo off.
Yeah. And
But
it's
there
been
was never a
helpful. Yeah.
tattoo at the end of it. Does that make any sense?
No.
It's like something that's something that is ingrained,
Yeah.
something that's
Oh,
permanent. Yeah.
yeah.
But there was nothing really ingrained at the same time.
Right. And
Yeah.
that exactly. Well, no, and just the this relentlessness of trying to feel better.
Yeah.
Like that's what it was. It was like,
So the moment that the
yeah,
character seeks, it's really what's doing is it's just a mind play that reinforces the me over and over and over again. So it goes into a whole bunch of practices. It goes into teachers. It goes into gurus. It goes into practices. It goes into inquiries. Again, there's nothing wrong or right at that, but it goes into this maze, right? But there's really no maze.
exactly.
Yeah,
And like, yeah, and so it's just been very because there's a very there was the whole narrative was
yeah,
like I I have this condition and I need to calm myself down and I'm not
mm,
present enough
yeah,
and I'm not in the moment and I'm
yeah.
missing my life because and it's like no like that thought is making me miss my life. Like like it's
Yeah.
like so be ungrounded and don't pay attention and I don't care anymore. Like
Yeah.
I can't.
It's
Yeah.
almost like
So
the individual has to be beat into submission that it's really nothing. But it keeps on trying to come up with things to make it into something. When it's seen that
yeah.
it's already empty, that's even all of these words don't pay attention to it, meaning that it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant even if it's relevant. Even if it feels relevant, it's irrelevant. So it
Yeah.
keeps on coming up with a whole bunch of excuses and everything, right? But when the excuses run out, it's like that abusive lover that tries to get back over and over again, but you've lost the love, the
Yeah.
attachment. Yeah, it's like someone that is constantly lying, and then but you see through the lies,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
don't believe it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hooray.
And I don't, but it's not even like it's just not believed.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no me
It's just it's
anymore.
just it's just whatever. Yeah.
it's like, you go, girl, like whatever. I don't care anymore. Like, so that,
And
and then I was like,
did you finally get some sleep?
yeah, and but falling away.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't, because my whole thing was like, oh, I need to sleep, I need to get rest, I need to
Yeah.
rest, and blah
Yeah.
blah. And it's kind of like, when a wave of fatigue comes now, it's like, maybe I rest, maybe I should,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny, right? Going back to that desperately seeking, it's always desperately seeking something. Desperately seeking some sleep, desperately seeking some relief, desperately seeking some peace, desperately seeking some, but whatever is seeking, it is already.
Yeah, and then I went really hard into the trap of like not seeking
Yes,
as
which
a
is
way of
another,
thinking. Yeah, that was really full-time job for a while.
Yeah.
And but that, because even yesterday I was going to this thing, I was on the bus, and I was like, all right, I'm sitting on the bus, and like I shouldn't, but like, am I on the bus? I'm not on the bus. Who's on the bus? And I was, and it was really like painful again, and just this like,
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't know. So today has just been like, and it's really fun because it's like, all the things that are like unspiritual are the
Yeah.
things that are allowing me to see, to illuminate
Yeah,
things.
yeah, because the spiritual seeking, seemingly, again, there's nothing wrong or right about it. It just reinforces what is being sought.
That there's a problem,
That there's a
basically.
problem, that there's something that there's something lacking.
Yeah.
So, for example, of this, yeah, and again, it's just what is as well. That's also it. You know what I'm saying? It's just, but when it's seen that um, it's just empty all the way. It's nothing all the way. And that's even saying way too much. It's something
Yeah.
that cannot be thought of. It's a mystery. The curiousness of this intimacy. You know what I'm saying? Without any separation. So meaning if there's no separation, there's no this or that. There's no wrong or right. It's intimate.
Yeah.
It's raw. It's incomprehensible because it's in everything. So
Yeah.
it's almost this it's it's irreproachable, it's blameless.
Yeah. And yeah.
Whatever it is, seeking or not
And
seeking,
yeah.
yeah, it's whole.
And then I had like a run in where I was on the bus, and I had to get off, and I had to walk along the road, and it was like a really dangerous road, and I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah.
And I had to like call someone to come pick me up, and I was
Yeah.
crying by the side of the road, and I was like, oh my God, this is so traumatic. I'm gonna have to work on the trauma of this. And then I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
but I don't exist, so I don't have to work on the trauma.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what you think you exist or not exist, it's just another
Yeah.
veil.
Like,
Yeah, yay.
yeah.
So it doesn't
So
matter where the thinking goes, this or that, or whatever it seems, it's also it. You know what I'm saying? It can't, it's not about getting rid of anything because there's nothing to get rid of.
right.
Yeah.
And it's not about not having any fear, because there's no one having the
Behind it.
fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, but also not as a concept. Like,
No,
for
not
me,
as a
that's a
concept.
really
Yeah.
big distinction, because I,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's no one behind it, so I'll just be happy all the time. And it's just like, oh, it's just another way to like try to get somewhere. Like,
Yeah. It reminds
yeah.
me of someone that called me a couple of weeks ago and at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Of
Oh,
course, I answered the phone and someone said, it's the suffering. The suffering is it. The suffering is it. Crying and laughing and crying and laughing because that's what it is. It's
that's
the
that's that's
suffering.
it.
And and
Yeah.
and 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 he said it, but there's no one behind the suffering. But I keep on overlooking the suffering as something that I have to get rid of, but that's also it.
Yeah, that's exactly my experience right
Yeah.
now. It's like,
Bingo.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hooray.
Yay. So
I'm expecting a new album soon.
funnily enough, as soon as like I've just been producing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like it's like, and all these lyrics are coming out like in a really sweet way. So
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I
yes,
can't
watch
wait
this
to
space.
hear it. It's it's
And
it's
it's all
it's the
EDM. So
it's the wordless, appearances like playing the piano, running, um
Yeah,
saying
because you said
Google.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said that thing about DJing, and yesterday I was so caught up, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna go on my like go on Logic and start doing stuff." And like, I was like, "Oh, it's so fucking great that like this and meditation are the same." Like,
Yes.
I don't have
Yeah.
to, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's it's
yeah,
it's it's so, it's so, and again, there's nothing wrong or right about this. It's so funny when there is a seeming focus here, when there's this wordlessness, this whatever this is, and then there's this word storm that appears, thought, blizzard and everything that seems, which is also it, by the way. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
but
yeah,
they're seeming of getting caught up in that one. There's this blue, red, I can't even, whatever, this light, it's just wow. Wow, 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 wow. It's
yeah,
like this boom. And it's incomprehensible. It's just,
yeah.
yeah.
And the freedom part too. Like I was walking to the kitchen earlier, and I was like, "Oh, okay, the freedom. It's not freedom. It's
No, it's
just
not freedom. Yeah,
it's just freedom."
it's just freedom, whatever it is.
It's like, well, I feel so free, but I don't feel free. It's just free.
It's
So
just
anyway,
free. Yeah, it's just free. It's
yeah,
see, again, this will sound kind of like, it's almost like the non-attachment to freedom.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's when the suffer when the surrender just happens or
Freedom
whatever
can
the fuck
appear
you
as
want to call it.
suffering. Freedom can appear as, intolerance. Freedom can appear as disgust. It's free
Yeah.
to be whatever it is.
And I thought that I had to like it, that having no
No.
self meant having
Yeah.
to like the disgust. And it's like,
Yeah.
no,
No.
that's yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Brilliant.
I'll come back.
Brilliant.
I'll come back
Thank you.
later. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to, that's a long question, sir. Why don't we see what you're talking about? What's not seen? What's missed? So sometimes getting caught up in the words, getting caught up in what's being talked about, and conceptualizing something that is so simple, it's beyond simple. It's so simple that it does not need to be comprehended. So without the comprehension, like seeing what is appearing in the absence of thoughts, or even in the thoughts, is what is. There's no special lens here, or no or, or no special vision that is, appearing. It's just what is. So this is basically the unfiltered appearance of something that does not need to be understood or comprehended or visualized even. It's just what is. It's appearing as it is. It cannot be talked about. It doesn't have a source. It's completely without meaning. Um, but it's this mystery that does not need to be solved. It's what is. Hello, Emerson. Thank you for doing this meeting. In your newsletter, you were talking about free will with some neuroscientists. Is there any way that you can give us a little preview of that? Yeah, 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 for sure. Um, so there's this new if anyone wants to jump in, please go ahead, because there's this new Stanford University professor, neuroscientist, that 30 years of work basically resulted in this conclusion that there's no such thing as free will. So there's a couple of neuroscientists that I've talked to in regards to that matter, and it's just quite fascinating. It's quite exciting to talk about something that is one neuroscientist will go into determinism, basically that it's determined, or one will go into, it's brilliant. I'll release some of it. I've talked to a couple already. But in the event next weekend, it's just basically an exhaustion of the idea of free will, because that seems to be a lingering conversation. And a few people have also reached out basically saying that, hey, Emerson, I've listened to some teachers or whatever, and there's always this feeling that there's something wrong. If there's no free will, there's nothing wrong or right that you're doing, because there's no you doing any of it. Um, and it's just a breakthrough in science, seemingly. But there's also going to be, so it goes into this. There's a book called Determine, which is basically determinism. It's a 15-hour book. I skimmed through it because there's not really much interest in all of the thing, because it's already obvious that there is simply not two, or simply no one. So there's no free will. But it's also quite fascinating to hear all of these studies that goes on about intent, about what's the other one that was kind of really brilliant? Um, Free will does not have any neurons behind it. Free will does not have any neurons behind it. So even if you go into neuroscience and everything, there's no such thing as free will. And it's quite a compelling, 15-hour, a book, a dissertation about what cannot be comprehended, that there's no free will. But it makes some really, really solid points, although it's still in the story. There's nothing wrong or right about the story, but it's a very it goes, it's kind of like, I like it because, I used to explain it, all the way down is turtles, all the way down is an illusion. So it goes into this biology, it goes into intent, it goes into psychology, it goes into this turtles, and it still comes out empty, that there's no such thing as free will. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I can't wait to share, blamelessness and all that kind of stuff that seems to appear. The greatest piece, for character, is to see that it has not done anything wrong or right. And what seemed to create a lot of the suffering of this character when it was, suffering, was that incessant feeling that there was something wrong, or there was a lot of guilt or shame that just kept on spiraling over and over again. So to see it from a scientific perspective, that there's no fault, there's no blame, it's just what is quite relieving, maybe for some characters. It's already seen here that there's really no one behind anything. Um, but for quite a while there was this persistent feeling of, I did something wrong, there's something lacking, I should have done this better, I should have done this, the should have, the could have. And from a scientific perspective, which is really great, the way that I see some science, neuroscience, is trying to catch up to something that cannot be caught up, which is non-duality. There's no opposites. So it's a brilliant thing, and there's just so much enjoyment here. Would you say that there being no free will sort of a proof for there not being something as a self, or me? Bingo, yeah. See, that's the biggest, that's the big kind of like debate, right? With non-duality circles, is the self, the no self, and everything. And from one angle, it will say that there is a self, or a higher self, and then from one angle, say that there's no self and everything. Um, it will never be figured out. It's just what is. It cannot be comprehended. It cannot be. There's nothing behind it, but it's not even nothing, the way that you can think of nothing. But to say that there is a conclusion of a self is really, really misleading, because it leads into it comes into religiousness. For example, when I was in a Catholic, wow, there was a lot of guilt that seemed to appear. And then when it went to spirituality, there was a lot of shame, and there's a lot of purification, there's a lot of wrongdoing, there's a lot of correction and everything. Um, and the freedom sometimes that is seen here from an apparent character, when we have a conversation or something in one of these sessions, is the freedom of innocence, that there's nothing that was done wrong or nothing that could have been done better. Kind of like what Maria was saying earlier, which is really right. There's nothing I can do. There's no choice. There's nothing that can be done about it because it is already what it is. Hey, Emerson, I'd like to attend, but I can't. If you can't afford it, that's okay. Just let me know. Just let me know so that I can send a link or whatever. It's completely all right. There's just a lot of excitement in sharing something that is just so obvious already, but backed with science, it's just a double slap, seemingly. So the even the conversation about no free will becomes a moot point. Um, and it explains that the test that was done as well. I can't remember. I don't have a good memory. I don't have memory. I can't seem to remember that test that was done. It just goes into like a 2-3 hour talk about that, about the MRI test. It's quite fascinating. Yeah. Oh, my DJ name is Emersonic.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on Mixcloud. I used to be on which one again? SoundCloud, but because of copyright, I think they took it down. Thank you for that brilliant intro. I was listening to it and somehow it silenced my mind. I was trying to comprehend, trying to understand, but I cannot conceptualize something that's being said. So thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there seems to be what's being spoken about does not need to be said. But somehow talking happens, seemingly. Somehow expressing happens, apparently. Somehow articulation appears. But what is being expressed does not need any kind of introduction or definition or articulation because it already is. And what seems to appear um, cannot be conceptualized. And yet conceptualization appears. But yeah, thank you. I really like your conversations about AI. Is there any way that you can do a live Zoom with Dr. Leela? I'm not sure if she's here. She was here earlier. Oh yeah. Um, that would be kind of fun. I'll ask Dr. Leela about it. Yeah. But yeah, it's quite fun. Whatever happens could not have not happened. No point in wondering why it happened. Again, yeah, it's just all this firing neurons about thoughts about something that cannot be comprehended. So there's this appearances of what is that is incomprehensible, and it appears as a happening, but is it really happening, and for who is it happening to? For who is it happening to? I really enjoyed your talk about time. Can you talk more about that? Do you have time? um Again, again, this is just, trying to express something that is incomprehensible, like, trying to express that this is really timelessness appearing as this segregated time, this conceptual time that seems to appear as a very persistent illusion, appearing as ticking seconds, minutes, hours, weeks, history, future. It's in everything. But what seems to appear is that um, there's just this infiniteness, but infiniteness cannot be comprehended. Boundlessness cannot be thought about. It's just what is. Yeah. Do you think the me scientists, the world in general, someday would agree upon the fact that there's absolutely no angel everywhere and that there's just what appears to be happening without a center or something behind it? What seems to appear is just this appearance of a dream or an illusion of duality or a dream of separation. So in this apparent dream of separation, there's always going to be separation. There's always going to be, a bunch of scientists, you know what I'm saying, that would basically say that there is no one, there's no individual. There's already some characters, neuroscientists that sees that there's no self, there's no me. But there's also going to be the opposition of that will say that, well, you know what? Yeah, so it will always be like that, apparently, until it's not. Maria.
Hi. The something that was coming up for me as you were talking was uh like how there's a few things that feel very real still
Yeah,
in a
of
way.
course. That's always going to be that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's
also
also it. That's also it.
okay,
There's
okay.
always going to be a felt sense of reality. There's always going to be a felt sense of separation. There's always going to be a felt sense of someone moving through time and space. But
It
like
was
in a
more about
dream,
yeah.
but go ahead. Sorry, sorry.
Well, it was more about the doing something wrong, uh like I was talking to my parents the other day about someone in Holland, euthanasia is legal, so someone
Yeah.
had
Same in Canada.
euthanized. Oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's really beautiful to hear, like
Yeah.
in a way, but and like the fear of becoming really ill with like a brain tumor or
Yeah.
whatever, like that feels like that there's something to resist.
Yeah, so that's the appearance of the neurotic character. You know what I'm saying? It will just be a neurosis. It always thinks of the future. It always
Yeah.
thinks of something that is, you know what I'm saying, kind of like occurring in time, like the past or the present or the future. But if you take away time, there's no basis for any of it. It can happen or not. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. And also, it's interesting because I feel like spiritual practice is like
It's
this,
focused on the next,
yeah, and
but
also
there's no
focus
next.
on like, yeah, being like, oh, well, if you practice hard enough, then when
Yeah.
something like that happens, you'll be in equanimity. And
Yeah.
and that's crazy because you're kind of just thinking about it happening all the time, then I
That's
guess.
true. And you know what? It is never going to be enough for the character, right? Even if it reaches that
Yeah,
apparent equanimity, then there's going to be someone with better equanimity. There's going to be Buddha.
yeah,
There's going to be
yeah.
Nisargadatta. There's going to be, it just never ends, right? So it's just madness. It's there's always going to be something lacking because the desire, if the desire will always just keep on desiring. So even when everything that it has desired, for example, if there's a desire to get everything and you've got everything, and then the desire to basically have nothing,
Yeah.
which is still a
Which is
desire,
the
right?
desire to be desireless. Yeah.
Yeah, desire to be
Yeah.
desireless is still a desire, right? So it will just
Yeah.
keep on going in a loop. And if there is but there's no one behind that loop, it's just desire.
It's so
It's
funny
brilliant.
that, yeah, and also just that we're all like, I don't know, I want to not be attached to anything. It's like,
But that's just another desire.
I know, but it's like so crazy that that's what I've been doing for years. Like, No, I'm trying to break my attachment to myself.
It's like trying to go home, but you keep on running back. It's like you're about to like, okay, I'm almost home, so I'm gonna run the opposite way.
That's so crazy. Yeah. And
I
yeah,
should not get attached to this. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of funny.
yeah, exactly. And like, and also just yesterday at the party, we played some of my music and people were complimenting me. And it was like, oh, now I feel good. And then on the way back, someone said something and I was like, oh, now I feel bad.
That's
And,
also
and
it. See?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and but also not like not needing to like make it into a thing that I like didn't feel attached to. So I was just like, shut up. Just everything shut
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
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 It is what it is, no matter what it is, right? So it's so simple that the long con of the character, you know, saying to me, is to maintain it over and over again by trying to focus on the next, or trying to either accept or reject it. But who's accepting and who's rejecting it? Who's in the next? It's all empty.
Yeah.
It's nothing but a thought about something that is is incomprehensible.
And honestly, like today was one of the really first times where I was like, I I I can't honestly go back to coaching people.
That's also
Like,
what is, but also coaching people with some clarity is also what is. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't
yeah,
matter.
yeah, true,
Yeah.
true.
Well, it's the same thing with me. I can't go back to teaching because who's to teach? And it's just incomprehensible. I can't think of it. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Yeah.
it's already it's seeing the perfection in what is already in every single appearance and
Yeah, so
trying to
actually,
change
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
trying
but
to
then
change.
it's still okay to also,
It's still okay. Yeah. So whatever seems to appear. So even the appearance of trying to help people is also what is. There's
yeah,
nothing
yeah,
wrong
yeah,
or right about
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
man.
There you go. See how fast it tries to kind of like rearrange and goes
I
like,
know.
yeah,
I was trying
brilliant,
to
huh?
sound a bit cool. I was trying to sound a bit cool when I was like, I don't think I'll ever go back to coaching. Uh, which is fine too. But and one thing that I did think, and then I'll shut up, is I'm so like in awe because I'm so in awe that you can talk about this so eloquently because
Oh,
it's I don't understand how you can talk about it. Like,
likewise, I don't too.
yeah, but it's amazing that you're able to communicate it in this. Like, it's crazy to me when
There's
I was like,
just
oh,
there's just an admission that I don't know anything. That's what it is, basically. It
but
just comes.
you don't know that you don't know anything, right?
That's true. That's true. That's also it.
Yeah, yeah, right.
But yeah,
So,
it's incomprehensible. There's just, I guess, sincerity that it cannot really, rather than trying to claim that it knows something or it does not know, it's just what is.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's just we're just chilling. We're
yeah.
just
If it's
yeah,
chilling, yeah. And there's just really no difference between this and this. It's all this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was talking to someone yesterday actually. Someone called me in a because call me right away, Emerson, because there's this character that's trying to a teacher, I guess, that's trying to that had clarity and trying to it's a an ongoing kind of like story that happens over and over again. A character can like have some clarity and then it gets into spirituality and everything, and then tries to change or correct people. And there's nothing
Mm,
wrong or right about that. But that's division though, when there's a trying to correct or trying to change things or trying to
mm,
create a separation that's never there. So
mm.
when this conversation apparently happens, there's really no separation from this and this. It's just seen as just what is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm not sure. Oh, hey, hi, Tom. Oh, there's a question for Jeffrey. Oh, sorry, there's a question for Rejoy here. Sorry, I'm missing all of this. Rejoy goes, +1 here for A1 sessions with Leela. Those AI conversations are fantastic. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Martin. Jeffrey goes, this, if there's no free will, are we not responsible for what we do? No. It's just what it is. And it's it's really simple as that. It's just really, really simple. It's there's science behind it now, you know what I'm saying, to support the simplicity of it. This character, this doctor's 30 years, 3 decades of his apparent life, went to study primates, studied people in criminal, people in the criminal um, jail systems and everything, to look at free will and everything, and basically concluded there's no such thing as free will, and it's just quite a fascinating. It's already obvious here because there's no one here, although even if it seems that there's someone here, that there is simply nothing behind any choices, and so for it to be explained in a very methodological way, I guess, is quite fascinating. Although that's also a story. It's also a figuring out. This can't be figured out. Tom goes, I'm not sure what people mean by free will. I don't know what that means. It seems obvious that we didn't choose our family, the color of our eyes, our cultural conditioning, our abilities, disabilities, the urge to zoom with Emerson, etc. Maybe I'm looking at it too simply, but in the past, if the past or the future is not wrong, then it's hard to conceptualize and no me to conceptualize the notion of free will. Take away wrong, future, then free will seems irrelevant. Here, the whole notion of free will or no free will drops out. Bingo. Yeah. It's very, very simple. It's so obvious that it does not need to be figured out. The heartbeats, everything seems to just appear without any kind of choosing, and it's brilliant. But somehow, you know what I'm saying, through the lens of knowledge and understanding and religion and spirituality, free will becomes the um almost like the cornerstone for its belief systems. It almost becomes an operating system for its for its system, because if there's no free will, then there'll be no congregation. You know, saying it in that kind of like mentality. So there is a like a mass deception that someone has a right to choose to be or not, and it's quite fascinating. But even that, there's no free will in that, and it's quite a wow. It's definitely a beautiful free falling, because there's nothing to be figured out, because there's nothing behind anything. And that's even what saying way too much. But it's also relieving, meaning that there's no heaviness, no contraction, just this openness, this wow authenticity that there's nothing to get. It's just raw. And it's but thank you for sharing that, Tom. Yeah, yeah, it's so simple and you nailed it. It's just there's no choice. But it's a great debate. Even in non-duality, it's a great debate. There was a video of someone that was released, and I'm not sure if that character is here, but wrote me an email and a couple more emails regards to this conversation about a critique on radical non-duality, I guess. But it's just obvious. It's just so obvious that and then it goes into free will and all this conversation. So yeah, it's fascinating. Can't wait to exhaust it completely for 2 days. It's just fascinating. Hey, Tom, you wanted to ask something? Hi. I can't hear you though. So you have to unmute yourself. Oh no, I want to hear you. Um, what you need to do is go to your mute function and change the speaker. Select
Can
a
you hear me
microphone.
now?
There we go. Yay!
Okay.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, it's almost like the concept sort of like collapsed. And then people use these words, and it's just like my mind won't even go there. So, like free will or consciousness or even non duality. It's almost
It's
like, I don't know what you mean by that. It's like, I don't know.
they're just words and they don't really mean anything. You know what I'm saying? There seems to be conceptualization or trying to understand words. But even if you go all the way to understand the word, it's just made up. Everything is
Yeah,
made up.
we might as well be talking about Blix, flute, and wassail. I mean, it's just you know,
It's the same thing.
we have these big long conversations about free will, and if it doesn't exist, why are we bothering? Just sorry.
Oh, I know, but you know, it's so funny, right? Majority of the emails that I get is usually centered around that. It's quite fascinating, especially in the spiritual circles, non-duality circles. You know what I'm saying? There's a debate that is should be a moot point already because there's no one, but and it's obvious already because it's just obvious. But somehow when philosophizing, intellectualizing it, questioning it, for example, it just becomes complicates something that is just so obvious and simple, so direct.
Yeah, it almost seems like we use thought to kind of undo thought or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're kind of using the. I don't know.
Yeah. It's just an unknowing, right? So there is, especially when the characters seem to get involved in self-preservation by self-improvement. And that's usually what triggers the seeking, right? So before they know it, they're seeking, they're improving the self, and then it encounters that there's really no self, then but they're caught up in the self already that's not really there.
Mhm.
And then there is a longing now, kind of like what I was saying, the desire now to lose the self, but although there's no self already.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it
but
seems like
there's this solid,
yeah.
if you look at applied non-duality, again, there's nothing wrong or right about that. You know what? There's respect for whatever. Um, there is this, you know, there must be a self, it's just calling something that cannot be called something, and it becomes an intrinsic belief, like a solidity of something that is just a concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it
I
becomes
get
an absolute idea.
yeah.
The self becomes the absolute. So if there's a self, then there must be a free will.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like in my world, I kind of pretend like I am a self and you're a self. Everybody else around me is a self because you can't really talk this way. But yeah, I
Well,
mean,
if
it's just
all
like,
words are made up, then everything is pretend. Even if you think that it's true, it's
yeah,
pretend
I feel a
because
little like
the
a
very
fake person.
language is pretend.
I have a big job and everything, and I feel like I'm a kind of a phony because I'm not really. I'm like pretending to be like this character, I'm this big self running things. I get paid for being in charge, and it's like I'm really not. I know that, but the rest of the people don't
What a
know that.
great show, though. You're in charge. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I'm putting on a good show.
Yeah. We'll chat again, Tom. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's really clear and obvious, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have a question here. Oh, hey, Dave. David.
Hi,
Oh,
Emerson. Oh, hello. Hi.
oh no. Shoot.
Hello. Hi.
I mistakenly took did Tom. Sorry.
You did what?
I removed Tom because I was distracted. Sorry.
What? You
So
you booted him out?
yeah, yeah, not
Oh my
purposely. I was like,
God.
oh shoot, what happened there? So I should message him in a bit, but that's okay. It's okay, it's already
Do you feel
clear.
does that? Do you feel bad about
No.
that?
But there's
So
already
my
clarity there,
my
yeah.
my question is, Emerson, do thoughts of the past ever come to mind or pop up for
Um,
you
if
guys?
you ask me about it, there seems to be thoughts of the past, but there's really no past outside of a thought.
Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
just like, if we talk about the story of Emerson,
Yeah,
and you've often shared parts of that
of
story,
course. Yeah, yeah.
and is there any time where maybe randomly, like a thought of something that might have happened in the story comes up, and there might be emotions like shame or guilt or
Not
regret or
really.
anything like that?
Whatever
Does that ever happen?
shows up just comes emptily already. You know what I'm saying? So it could
Yeah.
be a feeling of like, oh, ouch, someone, but it's just a passing fancy. It doesn't really
Yes.
stick. Yeah, so everything
Yeah.
is
So
allowed. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it it can happen, but is it
Yeah.
less likely to happen these days? There's
Yeah,
my
of
inverted
course.
commas. These days, it's
Yeah.
less likely to happen. So before the apparent shift, it would have been more
Oh,
frequent.
I would be in bed thinking about one situation, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
And just completely depressed about something that I thought that I did
right.
over and over and over
Yes,
again, thinking that, oh, I should have done
yes,
that and everything. So there was an entanglement of
yeah,
thoughts, right? So it was just
yes,
very heavy. It was such a heavy existence. And
yeah,
yeah, there was a lot, especially, the falling off of a spiritual teacher. I felt so bad. There was just so much guilt
yeah,
and
yeah,
shame. Shame just
yeah,
just was took over
yeah.
completely, right?
I'm
So
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. So that can come up, can come up, but it's just seen for what it is, and there's no heaviness to it.
there's no heaviness to it whatsoever.
Right,
Yeah. For
right,
example, if
right.
somebody came up here and said that, hey, you know what, whatever, 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 and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. It would come genuinely. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's not bypassing it, or it's not saying that it didn't happen, that kind of thing.
yeah,
So there's this authenticity of whatever happens, but the authenticity, since there's no one behind it, is
yes,
authentically also passes, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And not really held on to anymore, right? So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
peace in no matter what, and that peace cannot
yeah,
really be understood because it's not bypassing, it's not an acceptance, it's just what is. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's no resistance to it.
No, kind of like what
Yeah,
what you know what Maria and I are talking over and over again, right? It's just this curiousness. I'm like, oh, like if it's a it's like watching a movie. It's like watching TikTok. Talking about this, I saw this video of a dog getting euthanized and put to sleep, and tears just came out. You know what I'm saying? Just tears that came out. It's not personal. So it's like that. It's not separate, but
yeah,
it's not separate, but it's also not
yeah,
whatever. It's not it's not
yeah,
it's not it's not me anymore.
yeah. And
Yeah.
before the apparent shift, could you, like, for example, and I'm talking from my own experience today.
Yeah.
I was out walking the dog for a while, and maybe a 10-minute period had just gone by in a flash. And at the end of it, I realized that I'd been walking through the woods and it was all nice. And my mind had just been going 10 to the dozen, just thinking about things that have happened in my past, and then reliving experiences, and
Oh
then
wow.
fantasizing about different ways that I could have affected that situation. And at the end of it, it just stopped, and I just saw it for what it was, and there was no more thinking about it after that,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
it was no big deal. It was just, it's
yeah,
like, whereas in the past I would have said that for me that would have felt really real at the end of it, and then perhaps I would have thought, oh, there's a problem, I shouldn't be thinking that way, or there's a problem that my subconscious is telling me I need to work on something or fix
yeah,
something, or something's
yeah.
not
See,
right,
you caught it right
but
there.
now
So
that's just
so a thought will
seen for what it is, and it, yeah,
Yeah,
go
so
on.
a thought will come up, right? A thought will come up, and then for the elusive and the illusory me to be figured out, right? Then a thought comes up, and it comes up with the lack of that thought, something that I could do. So it survives, it becomes continuous now, right? I should have done
Yeah,
something about it. But when it's seen as it is, kind of like what you're saying
yeah,
right now, it doesn't
yeah,
really have any continuity.
yes, yeah,
It doesn't, it
yeah,
meaning it's not really real, but it's
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
solid. It's just like a blinking someone, it's like a
yeah,
blinking light. You know what I'm saying? It's
yeah,
it's like a
yeah,
it's like it's incredible to say this, but it's like a neuron that's coming in and out. It's like a what do you call that? A quark that comes in and out.
right,
If you
yeah,
go all the way to see, you know what I'm saying? To kind of like, if you put you'll never see a David, but you'll see a quark that's coming in and out, and that's not even solid.
mhm,
So to think that your thoughts are solid, are real, and everything, it's just
yeah,
it's just a neurosis, you know what I'm saying? To
yes,
maintain that you are real, because the original
yes,
thought of I am real is constantly challenged every time that you blank out.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then it gets caught up again in this thought that, I have to do something. So the self-preservation mode of thinking maintains that I am real. I have to do something. I'm lacking, because it also
Yeah.
posits an opposite, right? So it creates an opposition. So for example, if it sees that it's real, then it wants to be not real.
Yeah.
If it sees that if it has this individuality, then it wants to lose that. Does that make any sense? It's really
Yeah, it
bizarre.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So a
Yeah. Yeah.
desire just keeps on making up desire, but actually there's no one that's desiring any of it. It's just a desire. And the desire will just keep on operating as a desire. At the penultimate end of it, like when a desire wants no more desire, it's still a desire.
Mhm.
It will just keep on going like that, and that's
Yeah.
how thought patterns used to seemingly appears. It creates a this and that, lack,
Yeah.
something missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the character is a lack, because there's no such thing as individual,
Mhm.
meaning it's an error. So it tries to correct it by trying to think of something to make it whole, either dropping away or becoming a higher self. So it's the same, like, it goes into the opposite sides of the spectrum, right? I'm going to be
Mhm.
everything or nothing. But both are ideas that perpetuates the self, or the me, or
Yeah.
whatever you might want to call
It's
it.
that's an interesting word that you used there, perpetuates.
Yeah.
And I've asked this before, and it's just something that I've never really sort of kind of got to the bottom of, if you
Yeah.
will. And like there's no self, so the apparent self can't do anything to achieve liberation. Um, there's no free will, there's no self, so there's nothing there's nothing you can do to achieve
No.
liberation.
No.
Oh no, it's not coming to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so oh
Try it
yeah,
again. Try
no,
it again.
it's
It's
not
it's
coming.
almost there. It's almost.
So
Although
yeah,
there's
so
almost there.
yeah, it's like when you're saying that you often or I often hear non-dual teachers talk about they might say a phrase like, "Oh, what do you see what you did there? That is that's sort of feeding the self. That's
Yeah.
keeping the self going." Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So is the opposite not true as well? That if there's no self to achieve
Yeah.
liberation, then there's also no self that could perpetuate the self.
Well, there's a really
That makes sense,
yeah, I get what you're saying.
right?
But it keeps on. It's almost kind of like a delusion. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to maintain the delusion, then you engage in the delusion. But when it's seen that it's a delusion, then there's almost kind of like, okay, that's just what's happening. Does that make any
Hmm.
sense? When
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
in the delusion, it's kind of like, then for example, if you get caught that there's really no you, and you are a delusion, so what you do is you keep on trying to trick that there's a you, always inserting you. So the seeking, there's a you. But when there's no seeking, there's no you.
but who's doing the inserting? Who's doing that, or what is doing that?
That's the delusion. There's no one doing
Yeah,
it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, uh,
It's like, it's like
yeah,
when you're fantasizing about something. Is there anyone
yeah.
doing that?
I guess my point is there is no one that could
There's
do
no
that. So
one.
how's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
Again, that's
yeah,
what we're expressing here is just we're circling in words. In
yeah,
silence, it doesn't matter really.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking this earlier as well, and words really do fail us because every single word is dualistic, isn't
It
it?
is, and it's
I mean,
also
just the word,
made up. It's also made up.
yeah,
So
just yeah,
yeah,
totally. Just like the word is, to me, an interpretation of is can be equals, like something equals something else, and that's dualism right there. Like
yeah.
A equals
And we
B,
can
or
go to the
A is
etymology
B,
of
or
every
A
word.
is not B. It's all
Yeah,
dualistic, isn't it?
it's all
Yeah,
dualistic. Again, the moment that a single
yeah,
word is uttered, or even a
yeah,
sound comes out of a mouth,
yes,
that's already
yeah,
it's also what is. But when a meaning is put on it, for
yeah,
example, if you say I, then there's already separation. Then it goes into this madness
Yeah.
that there is something separate,
Yes.
but only from that plane of language. Without the plane, meaning without that language or without that
Yeah.
comprehension, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's really no world.
So
There's really no
would you,
universe. There's really no
yeah.
others. There's nothing, and not
Yeah.
even nothing, because that's saying a word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thanks. Cheers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. A person is blinking about 21,600 times per day. That's 21,600 snapshots. There's nothing behind the eyes. The blinking is like the shutter in the camera. Is the blinking like a gatekeeper of the light? It's almost like, it's I really like this analogy, right? It's a single frame, of like a strip of film has 24 frames per second. So when the light, you know what I'm saying? You don't see the frames, it's just see a continuous movement, but it's actually still. So the illusion of movement is created by a light and a strip of film kind of like running. It's a series of photographs. Um, it's kind of like when the eyes is blinking. Are we really seeing things? Is the visual actually the illusion, and the eyes that are closest at what's reality? Or is it both? It's just what is. So it doesn't really matter. And even if you look at the free will or choice and everything, if the body is autonomous, meaning that if it produces blood and oxygen and blinks the eyes, and it doesn't have any choice when to secrete, everything is just happening automatically, is what's being expressed here. And there's no one behind it. Because if there's someone behind it, then it's not really automatic, isn't it? Then there's a choice. And then there's an origin. And then there's an end. So what's obvious is that, I don't know what to call this. Some people will call it energy. It cannot be divided. It doesn't have an ending. It doesn't have a beginning. But don't get stuck in the word energy, because the energy becomes completely means different for many different characters, and it becomes this comprehension, or worse, it becomes a source now. Then energy becomes the new God, the new belief system, the new understanding. Again, there's nothing wrong or right about saying that. But what's being expressed here is this autonomous, this instant automatic movement that's completely still at the same time. And if you figure that out, your brain will explode. And what will be exploded is there's nothing really behind those eyes. It's just what is. So there's really no light or dark, because that's just another separation idea. You can say that it's just all light and there's no gatekeeper. There's the illusory, blinking and everything that seems to gatekeep, but it's just another idea. Maria, go ahead, please. And I'm
Hi.
really sorry if Thomas listening. I did not mean to. I just saw his name here. I did not mean to. If anyone else, it's nothing is intentional. Even if people scream at me, I don't kick them out, to be honest. Go ahead, please.
When you were saying before about like that there was a heaviness and then there's no heaviness,
Yeah.
or whatever, my
There's
sense
no
was
more.
at first,
Go ahead, sorry.
well, the first thing that comes is like, oh God, he's not, I still have the heaviness and there's no heaviness in him. And then it was kind of like,
There's also no heaviness there, isn't it?
well, yeah, but also like any heaviness is like the I who, okay, the I who wants to be without the heaviness,
Yeah.
actually disappears into the heaviness.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes, bingo. It's not apart from it, isn't it? There's nothing apart. That's also it.
Yeah.
So it's like this whole thing, and then when you nitpick at it, what I'm saying, kind of like this part, kind of like but when it's seen that there's nothing separate, even the heaviness, the lightness, and everything in between is it. It's like
Yeah,
that analogy. It's
yeah.
like that analogy with the elephant, when the one is holding the trunk and one is, you know what I'm saying? I can't remember the whole
Oh, yeah.
story, but it's just the
Yeah, yeah,
elephant, right? So some people are like, oh, it's, it's really sharp and everything if it's holding the tusk. And
yeah.
if somebody's holding the tail, it's really playful. And then if somebody's holding the trunks, it's really solid. So playful, sharp, and whatever is the same. It's just an elephant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so just this whole quest of not feeling heavy is the
That there's a lot, that there's
opposite
something missing.
direction.
Yeah. So there you
Yeah.
got it. So there's something missing with heaviness,
Yeah,
which is also it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not about me accepting the heaviness
No.
either. It's
Yeah.
literally about dissolving.
Yeah. That's it.
But not because any, yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
not as a doing, because the moment that you
No.
think that you're dissolving, then that's just another trickery of thinking that you did something there.
No, it's
But
kind
there's
of just
nothing
like,
wrong with that. Yeah.
yeah, it's like kind of like a mic drop. Like it's just kind of like as in
Boom.
like not a mic, yeah, just yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. Oh, there's another question here. I'm not really sure what's transpiring in this meeting, but it seems to be really clear and obvious now that there's really no one speaking, there's no one listening, and there's really nothing happening. But that's just another thinking of something that is not quite happening or not happening. Don't need to confirm what is being said here, but I just want to express and thank you for doing this. Yeah, it's not about any positions, right? So it's just this directness. It's not in the thinking of what is and what is not. It's in the raw. It's in the without any separation, like how this voice is sounding. What is often, not heard is the silence that is seemingly appearing simultaneously with this noise and this chatter and voice trying to explain silence over and over again. And this seemingly movement of what's appearing in this radical stillness that has never moved, but yet there's this movement in trying to explain it. It's it's in the all-encompassing thought or no thought. It's in everything, and it's just this wondrous appearance, and there's no reason for it, but somehow this talking about this so eagerly and passionately is because it's talking to what is, although there's no other than what is. So it's in this directness, in this, not a communion because there's never been any separate, but just this wonderful conversation from something that's never been separate. That's the wow. Oh, man. Thank you. Hi, Emerson. Is there any way that I can attend the beginners class? Oh, the newbies. I seem to get really lost because I'm still in spirituality and I'm getting confused with all of this. Yeah. There is another. Just email me, and I'll connect you with that. It's there's nothing really that's being said here that's different from what's being said in a different group that I do. There's a newbie group seemingly and there's nothing wrong with it, that are in the spiritual belief system and expecting transcendence and everything, and but what's being expressed here is just really direct and it's very simple. But from a seeking mind, especially in this spiritual realm, if there's such a thing, creates this confusion because this is not about a belief system. This is not about a figuring out something. This is just this directness that there's nothing to get, there's nothing to know. It already is, and it's just a hooray. It's a celebration of what is, and there's no correction. There is nothing wrong. There's nothing right at the same time. It's just what it is. So for the seeking, from that seeking, spiritual seeking, this is going to come really, really flat because it's not giving anything. It's not giving any kind of something to do or finding something wrong or it's just what is. I do the other ones on Saturdays, yeah, but it's the same thing. Do you talk about the same thing? I don't really prepare. I write, maybe I write a couple of sentences and I just go, freestyle with it. I really enjoyed your talk with Shimon. Can we have more of the one-on-ones released? Yes, I'm actually and this is just what is, somehow there are characters out there that are confronted with the one-on-ones and they report it. So it creates this headache, with YouTube. Especially when I just released a whole bunch of them. There's people perhaps in a spiritual practice that maintains that there has to be some practice that's needed to see through the illusory self, meaning that there's no one there. So there is this threat, I guess, with these videos that come out that it's intense, it's already is. It's like although there's really nothing needed, it shows as a proof that there's really no need to practice and everything. So there's a lot of reporting that happens, and sometimes if you don't get my video on your feed, it's because it affects the algorithm, but it's completely all right. It's also what is. And I also see it as innocence. It's just what is. Annoying, but it's also what is. Oh, Cecilia. Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Emerson. How are you?
Hello. I'm excellent.
Hey, I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Or actually, not a question. Could you talk more about or elaborate more about when you said it's already the case?
Yeah. So what is being expressed here, which is what's usually sought for, is this undeniable, unconditional what isness, this isness that is always, constantly this. The seeking seems to appear, in this kind of like, meetings and everything. But no matter what is said, no matter what is sought, it's already. So this immovable, this unchangeable isness, whatever this is, this mystery, unfathomable, inexpressible, unthinkable, is all encompassing. So it's also in the seeking. So even the seeking is already the case. So even the longing is already the case. Even the longing is also it. So there's nothing that's it. So it's already the case.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to understand it.
Even trying to understand it is it. See, that's it. It's in
Yeah.
everything. It's always whatever it is. So it can appear as getting confused, scratching the head. It appears as walking in the morning, looking at the brilliant golden sunlight. It's in the crying, watching TikTok videos about dogs dying. It's in everything. It's in a frustration about not being able to go to the mall to get cinnamon rolls. It's whatever it is. Yeah, so
Then
it's
it's
also in the
already
seeking, but the seeming appearance of this neurotic seeking seems to appear as there's something lacking. So whole, what I don't want to call it wholeness. What is whole also includes lack. What is all-encompassing also includes missing. So it's in everything.
and then it's already the case.
We can even go.
It's
It's
meaning this.
whatever is happening.
This.
Yeah, or let's even go a little bit scientifically, right? You know what I'm saying? So what seems to appear is this timelessness, but there's a time that appears. So if there's really no time, it's already the case. It's already finished.
Already done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, let's even go a little bit further. It can be looked at many different things, right? So if there's already no one there, it's already the case. Because for someone to appear there, there has to be some time involved, seemingly, but time is an illusion. So if time is an illusion, the self is an illusion, the me is an illusion, separation is an illusion. Let's go even a bit further. You know, saying so in any kind of like prism that you look at it, it's always the case.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Amazing topic.
It's kind of like that book, you know, Determined. So no matter how he looked at it, you know, he looked at it from behavior, he looked at it from biology, he looked at it from neuroscience, looked at it from primates, you know, like evolution, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's already that there's no free will there. And if you go even further, even all of that study in the absence of time, in the scope of this magnitude isness that is also nothing, it's already the case.
My perception about you, my thoughts about you, and what this character is doing here, it's already the case.
Yes.
There's no
It's-
there's
yeah,
no
there's no
free
more-
will.
now-
I cannot change it because it's already the case.
It's already the case. It already
Yes.
is what it is. So for example, when I meet people on one-on-one, I see that it's already the case. And it's just a clarification. It's just an illumination that it's already the case. And then they'll come up with a whole bunch of ideas, and I'll just say that's just a thought about it. And well, someone will say that it's not the case, but who's saying that? It's already the case, and it's just empty all the way down, meaning that it's already incomprehensible. It's like nothing is seeking for nothing when it's already nothing. The no me is longing for no me when it's already no me. What is looking for what is when it's already what is. There's no duality aside from a concept. But we can only talk in concepts. But there's also no concept. So when it's being expressed that it's already the case, it cannot be conceptualized.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. David. Hello, David.
Hi.
Hello.
Right. So, here's my question. So apparently, energetically,
Yeah.
are some people energetically ripe,
Yeah.
and just ready to pop?
Well, in the story, of course, yeah. But there's no people that's energetically ready and ripe because there's
Yeah.
already no
Oh,
people.
yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was meant to say characters.
Yeah.
I'd already planned that question out, and I was meant to say
That's
characters.
okay. That's okay. That's okay. It's beyond comprehension because it already is. It's almost like there is this dreamscape of seeking world and everything, non-duality and everything. But the moment that the curtains, saying the moment that the door opens in a movie theater, it's seen that, oh, it's just a dream. It's just a movie. Nothing's really happening. So it feels absolutely real that there's going to be some kind of, people that are about to pop, or people that are about to whatever. It's quite surprising because everything is allowed, including that idea. Like there is this person that I was talking to and said that, I don't know if you can do this, Emerson. Someone told me that there's just no possible way for you. And I'm like, who would say that to you? Like there's just no possible way for this person.
Yes.
And I think he's like in his like 70s and everything. And what was really surprising is when it was seen that when it was expressed that there's really no one further, no one closer to this because it already is. Even that idea that if you just basically look at the thought that language is already dead. So your thought, your ideas about this is already extinct. So it doesn't really matter what you think, it's already done. Yeah.
So it feels here that if there were a glimpse, and there have been, that instantly upon that glimpse, the self would impose itself again.
Of course.
Because
what
that it is so energetically I don't know. The best analogy I've got is if you imagine like a blood and an anticoagulant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you cut and someone bleeds really easy, and if there's a lot of friction, then somebody's got really thick blood and they they stop bleeding straight away. It feels
right away,
like the moment there's an openness, that
there's a
openness is going to
claiming right
constrict.
away, because what usually is glimpsed that there's no one. So there is almost like a kind of like, like that there's a an epic movie that's playing in a movie theater called You, and it's for 80 to 100 years. Then somebody opens the door, and then right away somebody goes, close the door, because you see that it's just that's the glimpse. It's just this break into this fantasy world of you as an individual.
Yes. It feels as though through fear that the self wouldn't want to let go, because it would be like doesn't want it just want to fight. It wants to fight against death, doesn't it?
So the character
there's
always
fear in
thinks
there
of
that
a
makes
next
it
event.
stronger.
So it imagines fear, when it's not even there.
Yeah.
So it always creates this almost like this deceptive placing. It's fear, it's afraid and everything. But it's just
there's no conscious fear. I'm just trying to think of things under the surface that may or may not be the case. But I don't feel scared or intimidated by the message.
Okay.
But I'm trying to work out why I'm being so stubborn. And why am I being so stubborn is what I'm trying to
it's
out.
Because there's in the character, and this is just a story, there's an intellectual there that's trying to comprehend something, and there's also a skeptic that's trying to make sense of something that does not make sense. It will never make sense. It will never make sense. If you watch some of those one-on-ones, it's actually in what's not said that usually collapses the idea, right? It's in the what, there is a grasping, who's grasping it. So who's asking these questions right now? What's behind this?
Yes. I just wonder, here's another one, that if there is indeed in the dream, if you will, or in the story, if there are characters that are energetically more ready to pop than others, that whether or not that one day that will be measurable. And if you could take maybe a quantum computer, an AI on a quantum computer, if that could maybe measure it.
That'll be a good business for kind of like people that are ghost hunting, like they, they measure. They're like, oh, it's all imaginary, right? So to be able to even measure imaginary will be just another pseudo thing.
Okay, so my final question then, while we're on this subject, is how long until there's an AI chat that can represent a speaker in the same way that you talk about this subject? Somebody that can just, I don't know, some AI that
how do you know if this is not AI already?
Probably is, eh? Do you know what I mean?
This is
Is that
already
just
it.
around the
Yeah.
Is that just around the corner? Because I had a chat with Chat GPT 3.5 about non-duality, and it just wasn't willing to budge. It wasn't willing to budge. Do you know what I mean? It would only all it would say is that this is quite a contentious subject, and there are trains of thought that say this and trains of thought that
Yeah.
say that. You know, but there's no
Yeah.
real sort of consensus.
Yeah. If I don't know if you've watched some of my conversations with Dr. Leela, we talk about this.
Yeah,
That it's already
Yeah.
it's already the case, even
yeah,
in the whole in the whole spectacle of this AI, fear of AI, and everything, this story is already closed. This resembles what is seemingly appearing here as the death of humanity and also the rise of AI simultaneously, meaning that what seems to be appearing, no one knows. So this could be the whole Synthesia, app that is playing all of this. And even the seeker is also Synthesia AI, speaking seemingly simultaneously. And this is just a simulation. And everything that seems to appear is this artificial intelligence, the artificial intelligence of reality. So, seeking and all this kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
who knows?
It would certainly explain why this is unknowing, then, wouldn't it?
It is, yeah,
Because
yeah,
essentially
Yeah.
that's a brick wall, isn't it?
yeah. It's like a
Yeah.
kid that has basically someone told me this and it was really brilliant. It's like I've been doing a lot of one-on-ones lately. It's like what this character basically said. It's kind of like when his father was scrappy and he would put all of these rubber bands together and it forms into a ball. And each rubber band represents something like fear, like love and everything. But when all of the rubber bands kind of like disentangle, there's nothing there.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's almost like there's much ado about nothing and whatever it is. And nothing is something that you can think of because it's just something, it's nothing. So there's this again, this desperately seeking for nothing and thinking that they know what nothing is when it's
Mhm.
incomprehensible.
Mhm.
And there's almost kind of like a capturing of whatever. So you could say that this is already appearing as this artificialness of something that's intelligent, but
Mhm.
not what you can comprehend because what you're thinking, all of your thinking is artificial. What's intelligence is also what is appearing as this, whatever this is. But
Mhm.
intelligence without a source, intelligence without a meaning, just intelligence. You know what I'm saying? It
Mm.
doesn't have to have any meaning.
Yep.
It doesn't have to
Yep.
have any cause.
Yeah.
But it's seemingly appearing as this brilliant simulation of reality that seems to surpass all of the understanding behind it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Thanks, Emerson.
All
Speak to you
right.
later. Cheers.
Okay. Maria.
Hi.
Hi, Maria.
So just on what you were just talking about, with David, was it David?
David,
Was that
yeah.
his name? Yes,
Yeah.
sorry, just David. That I feel like when when I was talking in the beginning about like all of my like amazing insights,
Yeah.
and now it's like really funny because I'm like that person must have been really annoying to listen to because when people talk, I'm always like, what do they have that I don't have? And now it's like I'm just like, oh, the thinking I've lost it, and that whole I had it then and I was saying all this stuff and then I don't, and it's like that it just I don't need to engage with that stuff. Like
it's just what
like,
is. Yeah, yeah.
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 Like it's like
There's not even you to engage in it. It's just what is. Yeah.
This idea that like at the beginning of the call I had a lot of clarity and now I'm kind of like just scrolling on Instagram.
Yeah.
Um
Perfect.
Yeah. Much more interesting than you, Emerson.
Totally.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Agreed. Yeah.
But just that like I think I've always just been so caught up
See,
with this,
getting
like,
caught up with, something is thinking that you have to maintain it now, right? So it's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's like, oh, I used to have clarity and now I don't have clarity. Doesn't matter. Clarity is constantly, persistently there. It never changes. Not your
And-
clarity, not someone's clarity, not my clarity, obviously. It's just clarity. So
Yeah.
whatever seems to appear when there's just this pristine clarity is it. So it's also the scrolling on Instagram and not listening to this. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
The moment that you think that you're clarity, then that is, that is clouding, what I'm saying? Clarity, because it becomes from your perception now. Oh, I'm clear, that kind of thing. No one's clear.
exactly.
Yeah.
And also it has nothing to do with happiness.
It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. It is like,
Yeah.
because I would listen to people be like, oh, and then I'd just be angry and annoyed at them. And now I'm just like, oh, but they were probably sad later too. Like, who
Oh,
cares?
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. That's been really helpful.
It's just what is. Like, for example, when even in this meeting, I'll share you something just to be completely like, transparent here. My doggy is like going, I'm like, I just walked you. I did. Saying that's also what is.
Yeah.
Even that can, like, it's also what is. It doesn't matter.
What a relief, man.
Yeah.
What a relief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no perfect being here that's floating, like 20 inches above the ground and riding on a cloud. That's just delusion, you know what I'm saying? It's the normalcy, it's the stunning ordinariness of whatever it is. It's the sipping the coffee, it's the um whatever it is. Or it's like crying at like TikTok videos about dogs. That's what is. Or getting a little bit kind of like irritated at whatever. That's also what is. There's this seeming idea that what this is eternal bliss. But what's that again but just a thought, isn't it?
I think the most painful thought that is that other people are happier than me. Like,
there's no other people outside of thought, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
But also just that like
but that's also it, saying it's gonna find comparison is the thief, but that's also it. Comparison is also it. So there's nothing wrong with comparison.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, no matter what shows up, it is it. Even comparison, it's just but it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. There's just this curiousness because that's also it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been served. Thanks.
Yes. It's funny when I get into some hardcore kind of like awareness kind of like thing. Every time that I would think of something, I'll be like shaking my head all the time because I'm trying to get rid of the thought. But it's just reinforcing it over and over again. It just maintains it that there is something wrong with this thought. But to say that there's something wrong or right, just reinforce it that the thought is real. But then when it's just seen, it's just what is, then it's just whatever. So if there's nothing behind the eyes, there's also not darkness behind closed eyes, although it seems so. Yes. Yes. Because this darkness is just another idea again, right? It's just another thought. It's just another concept. It's incomprehensible. It's wild. It's anarchy. It's wildness. And it cannot be even be talked about. It's not something that someone is witnessing or experiencing something better here. It just means that there's no one witnessing or experiencing something better or worse. It's just what is. And it's beautiful. Last question. Or nothing right? Yes, nothing wrong or nothing right. Yeah. We can keep on going. If there's questions, I'll stay. Are you going to be doing some in-person meetings soon? Yes, there are plans actually. So in December, we're planning to do in Toronto, and in January, Antonius, you're probably planning to do a Florida one. So yeah, there's a couple of invites, but I'm still with my mom here. So eventually you will be, yeah. But for 2, 3, up to 4 days, it's okay, but not like a whole. I planned a trip before for a few months, right? So, which is just, yeah. So the tour, you know what I'm saying, might be a challenge, yeah. But yeah. Well,